green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go.
And a good Tuesday morning, Birds fans. Appreciate you getting up and streaming in early. Appreciate Johnny Mack getting back up and streaming in early with us today. You got Mac and Mac, McMullen and McDonald here with you for the next two. Johnny Mack going hoodie today. I'm guessing maybe he slept in that thing. We'll find out right here. A little late night coming back from South Philly yesterday, John?
Yeah, a little bit of late night. Got locked in the building. Our good friend Rob Motti, got to give him a hat tip. He picked up a bunch of us by the loading dock, so we didn't have to walk 3 miles back to the parking lot. So hat tip to Rob. Yeah, come on, Eagles. What is going on with that place? They literally locked us in the building. There's 15 to 20 reporters.
Right, if you don't want to do night games, okay, fine. But don't schedule.
Yeah, believe me.
When you
I don't want to do them
you gotta expect to be there till late at night, early in the morning.
Exactly.
The schedule says that's what the schedule says.
Stadium operations, you got to wait until we leave. That's how it works. It's the life you've chosen. We always get that. It's the life we've chosen as reporters, which is true. Got to work on holidays, got to do night games, got to do things like that. That's true. Hey, stadium operations, hangouts, bring, watch a movie on Netflix on your phone, do something. You got to wait.
Yeah, get Mr. Laurie on the phone and say, we don't like these night games. Don't schedule them anymore. See what he has to say about that. Well, it was a night game. It actually moved along pretty quickly. You guys must have had good stories to cover and good stuff coming out of the clubhouse because it didn't drag. It moved right along, mostly because of the Philadelphia Eagle defense. You and I exchanged texts yesterday, and you told me, listen, if the Eagles defensive line gets pressure, then they can slow the Dolphin offense down. If they don't, Tua is going to put up 35, 42, whatever else. The Eagle defensive line came to play, Johnny Mack. They did pressure him. Tua is very good at getting the ball out of his hands quickly, but even at that, Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat off the edges were in his face and making plays, not only against the pass, but against the run. Reddick was great against the run, just completely shut down the Dolphin running game to start the game last night. To use your phrase, hat tip. The Eagles defensive line made you hat tip last night. They were stone cold dominant.
Yeah, I mean that group. We go back to Bucky Brooks. I keep giving him credit in the offseason, saying it was the best position group in the NFL. It is. It's incredibly talented, incredibly deep. And I was saying it all week because I got a lot. Maybe it's because it's Halloween season. I got a lot of Eagles fans who were terrified. Mike Missinelli said it on the postgame show. He was terrified. And, I put up in the pregame warmups, I said, well, it's going to be Edmonds and Sidney Brown at safety, Josiah Scott in the slot. And people, every single comment was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I've been saying it all week. If you can't block people, you can't play offense in this league. And they could not block the Eagles front. And that, now I get the other end. Oh, Eli Ricks is playing well. What a great job by Sidney Brown. Hey, they couldn't deal with Tyreek Hill. Nobody can deal with Tyreek Hill, but they didn't have time to get him the football consistently. There's the one drop, but I mean, their defense is built on that front. And when that front plays up to their capabilities, I've yet to see anybody who can block them. And blocking the Denver Broncos all week doesn't impress me. Blocking the New York Giants doesn't impress me. Blocking the Carolina Panthers doesn't impress me. And the Dolphins aren't. Look, they're a good team. I don't want to say they're a good team because now you have self-hating Eagles fans saying, oh, the Dolphins aren't that good. No, they're very good. They're not at the Eagles standard. And and I said all week, this is more of a statement game for the Dolphins than the Eagles. We know the Eagles are good. We don't know where the Dolphins are. We know they're kind of good, but they got beat by 4 touchdowns in Buffalo. Now they got waxed in Philadelphia. They're going to beat the bad teams, and they got to prove they can beat a good team. And that's for them going down the road. But the Eagles, I mean, their outlier was the Jets. Look, they blew that game. They should have won that game. They should be 7-0. And we talk about style points every week. And I'm sure we'll talk about them again here. There's plenty of stuff that they got to get better at. But offensive, defensive front, I say it every week. Now, Lane was back on the offensive line, so all the issues were shut down there. Although
except Lane did get beat for his first sack in forever, and Jalen caught the football up, so he wasn't 100%. It's great to have him back. The record is what it is. When Lane Johnson's in the game, the Philadelphia Eagles win, and that's more important than anything else. But he wasn't 100%.
Well, it was always going to happen. He had to give up a sack at some point. He gave it up, and that's fine. But it's a lot better than Jack Driscoll out there. So, yeah, I mean, they, we talked about it all week. 500 yards, 37 points a game. They gave up 10 stinking points to that team offensively because one was a pick 6, and I think 244 was the final total yards. I mean, and that's with, people are talking, and the Dolphins had some injuries, both their corners. Xavier Howard wasn't able to play. Connor Williams, they don't have a good offensive line to begin with. Teron Armstead's been hurt for a while. Connor Williams was out. But, I mean, the Eagles are down to their freaking 17th slot corner and the 17th safety pairing. I mean, you persevere in this league or you don't. And, yeah, I was not impressed by the Dolphins. Now, Tua can sling it when he gets time. Tremendously accurate. I can't say enough good things about Tyreek Hill. He is an unbelievable football player. But other than that, yeah, their bonded running game, nothing from Raheem Mostert until later in the game. Kind of garbage time. And Mike McDaniel.
That wasn't garbage time. The game was still, that was a 1-score game. And
by the way,
he had 2 carries for 25 yards, John. Man. You know what I'll do? I'll second-guess the Dolphin play calling. They run 2 consecutive plays.
Oh, you can't second-guess the greatest play caller in the history of the world.
Sure as hell I can. You do 2 consecutive runs for like 25 yards, and then they go away from running on the edge. They go back to running inside with their backup running back. What the hell were you thinking there, McDaniels?
By the way, I think Nick Sirianni wanted to prove a point because Mike McDaniel's getting all the flowers, and Nick's like, what have I built? And I think he would never admit it, but he wanted to show people, I still get it. Well, the Dolphins are so inventive. All right, they run the motion, they run the eye wash, they run that. They're great against bad teams. It probably looks better, but I'd rather have the guys who block and the guys who rush. Now, the Dolphins' defensive front is pretty good. Their offensive line, though, they got some issues there. But they're a good team. They're not a great team. And the Eagles kind of proved that.
And Eagles did get a helping hand. And again, this is something you deal with in the National Football League, same as injuries. On a given day, the flags may fly against you or the flags may fly in your favor. And last night, and part of this is the whole, what did you just call it? Eye-washed or motion on every single play, two guys heading in the same direction. When it works, it's great. It catches the other team off guard and confuses the team. But every once in a while, it lends itself to someone moving too early or taking a quick step. And, oh, here comes the flag. Back up 5 yards. Illegal motion. False start. They had a whole bunch of those last night, which is self-inflicted because you want to run this high-fangled offense where you're trying to confuse the other team. Yeah, there's going to be a price to pay. Eagles got a major break in the game. James Bradbury grabbing Cedric Wilson's face mask down the sideline in a blatant pass interference. The fact that they didn't throw the flag on that one gave the Eagles a big break. Now, the Eagles are the better team. I don't think the flags decided it. If it was called 50-50, Dolphins win. No, they don't. The Eagles were the better team. They were going to win. They deserved to win. But that was a pretty key juncture of the game. Still only a 7-point game that sets them up in their own red zone. Eagles got a break on that non-call, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you grab somebody's face mask, in the open field especially, it should be caught. But I don't complain about officials. I just don't, because there's nothing. I've heard it from coaches a million times over the years. Control what you can control, and you sure as hell can't control officials. So, sometimes you get bad calls, sometimes you get calls that help you. And you either, again, I'll use that word, you either persevere or you don't. I mean, it's baked in. You're going to get screwed at times in this league. They're human beings. It happens to everybody. It happens to every team every year. And good teams tend, I always say Michael Jordan rules back in the day. Michael used to get some calls, Good teams get more calls than bad teams because they have a reputation of getting, and how do you get over that hump to be a good team? The Eagles are over that hump, and they probably get more breaks. And the Eagles fans are going to want like this. They probably get more breaks than they don't, if you know what I'm saying, because they're a good team and they have a reputation for being a good team. And I always tell the story about Reggie White, and it's apropos because, Reggie's son was the honorary captain, the Kelly Green, all that stuff. When I covered the Vikings, there was this right tackle named Tim Irwin, who later became an NFL agent, pretty successful NFL agent. He played for like 17 years. He played forever. Very good player. He used to handle Reggie White. And you know why? Because he had this reputation for like 14, 15, and that's just a good player. And they didn't throw flags on him. And he would just hold on for dear life. And they could have called 10 holding calls a week on him every time they played the Packers. And, then they drafted Corey Stringers, another was a great player. Tragic incident. I always say my worst day in the NFL covering a team, but he was a really good player. And Reggie ate him for lunch because he was a rookie and they didn't give him. Now he learned from it and became a very good player. But yeah, reputation matters. And the Eagles have a big reputation, and deservedly so. But yeah, I never complain about officiating. Now the Eagles didn't get called for a penalty, I believe. So
they get 10. The Eagles get none. That's a little lopsided. You're not going to see that every week in the NFL.
Well, there's this NFL rep stats, and they send me stuff every week because they compile. And this is before the game. They compile different crews and their trends. So they do it like coaches would. People have trends. And Brad Allen was the official, said, and I quote, "A good home field ref, particularly as it pertains to fourth quarter penalties, which can be key in close games." So, he'll he'll be on the home field somewhere next week, and that team will probably have the advantage. So
Did the refs send it out?
Oh,
And
no.
who sends it out?
It's a site that follows the trends of
Oh, okay.
what officials
Site,
call.
Because
and
you don't want to be known as a home field ref. Where the game is played, if it's played on the moon,
Hey.
it's not supposed to affect the game.
You only don't want to be known as a home field ref if the league cares about it, and if the league thinks you're being unfair, and they don't give a shit. So I don't think Brad Allen gives a crap. But there's no doubt that different crews call different things. There's crews that call less penalties. There's crews that call more penalties. That's why this site exists. Allen, the rep, number 2 most defensive pass interference penalties on the road in 2023. This is the kind of stuff they do. He's number 5 calling defensive pass interference. Just 32% of the penalties on the home team in fourth quarter of games. So, they break, everybody breaks down everything, including officials. And the Eagles probably got a break. But by no means were the Dolphins going to win that game if the penalties were 5-5.
Exactly. It didn't have an indirect outcome on the game. Yeah, I do believe, because of that one penalty. Forget the 10-0. Because there are games where a team commits 10 penalty and the other team commits none. Can't just make a penalty.
Not
so at
too
the end
many
of the game,
teams.
you're 7-5 and it's kind of close.
I will admit there's not too many NFL games where you have no penalties.
10 penalties on one team and none on the other. That doesn't happen very often. And the only one I would even note would be the Bradbury pass interference penalty, because it was at a key juncture of the game. And to me, it wasn't even debatable. It was blatant and it was obvious. That's the only penalty that comes into question. Eagles are the better team on defense. Eagles are a better team on offense. I'll even give them the nod on special teams with that Boston Scott kickoff return. Although Berrios was good too. We actually saw a kickoff return. Johnny Mack, an NFL game with kickoff returns.
Yeah. Well, it's
not
getting
just
to that
touchback every single time.
It's getting to that time of year. It was windy and going the north end of the field. They couldn't get it. Either team couldn't get it in the end zone. So you're going to start seeing more kickoff returns in outdoor games, although it's supposed to get back to 80, but it was pretty chilly last night and the wind was not awful, but they could not kick the ball in the end zone that way. Either team.
One quick question for you. We get our first guest up. Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation is going to join us. Everybody seemed to hint on it. What I saw in the post-game stuff, it was hinted at, but nobody gave details. Jalen Hurts' wheel was off last night. Supposedly wearing a brace. I guess it's his knee. You really saw it on a couple of runs where he just wasn't running like Jalen. I'm not even talking about sliding or giving himself up or going down in the backfield. I'm talking about he's broken containment. He's turning upfield. He's making yards. And he's just not moving the same as he usually does, not as fast as he usually does. What's the deal? Any details you have on his knee?
Did you hear Nick answer the question? He was feeling Here's how we answered the question. Rob Motti, by the way, again, he asked the question. Rob, I know you're not here every day with the local media. I'm probably not giving you that information. We'll see. Got to talk to the trainers, talk to Jalen. We'll get him in tomorrow. John, that's me, is going to ask me tomorrow. Elliot Short Parks will ask me tomorrow, how is Jalen? I'm going to say, I got to see him a little bit more. I'll let you know Wednesday. Wednesday is going to come. It's going to be before practice. They're going to ask me again, and I'm going to say, I've got to see how it's looking out there, and I will get you some more information on Friday. Friday, we'll see if he's on the injury report or not. When Friday comes, they're going to ask, what do you think? What's going to happen here? I'll say, you'll get the injury report later in the day. I just string them along.
That's funny.
Man,
absolutely.
He laid out the whole week, and that's how it's going to go. But he's banged up. He got hurt in Los Angeles, and He didn't get hurt in the game. He was limping around NovaCare last week a little bit, but, he plays through it. Is he 100%? No. He made that big extending the play for A.J. Brown, 32 yards down to the 1 yard line. But yeah, he's probably going to be limited for a while, and we'll see if it's more serious. Probably not till Friday, but we'll see if it's more serious than that. I go back to Chicago last year. He got hurt in that game, played through it, and that was the shoulder injury where he ultimately missed 2 games. And he did the post-game press conference. He acted like he wasn't hurt, and he was. So he admitted he was wearing a brace, and he said, I hope not. And when he was asked, is it going to affect you? You never know, but I don't think it's terribly serious, but it's certainly affecting him.
And both his coach and his star wide receiver took his back last night and said the guy's just stone cold tough. And he is. If you need any more of an example, the Eagles converted a couple really big cheek sneak, tush push, brotherly shove, call it what you want.
4 for 4 on the
pretty damn good. And that's Jalen on a bum knee getting that first down every single time. I give some credit. I thought Goddard actually did more on the actual pushing of the tushing last night than he usually does. He actually,
they might have had to do a little bit more.
Yeah, they needed that assist from behind, and it was there.
Power,
and it worked. For him. So give Jalen credit, a ton of credit for playing through what may very well be a pretty painful injury that we'll not find out more details about as the coach designates.
And I'm not asking today, Nick. Why ask? Why waste? Why burn the question?
Gouton to ask him for you. He'll pick up the slack for you, Johnny Mac.
We're
going to ask Brandon Lee Gouton plenty. He's going to join us next. BLG from BGN, Bleeding Green Nation. Guest 1 to start the week off right with us here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got John McMullen and Jordan McDonald, your Birds 365 duo, joined by Brandon Lee Gouton, Bleeding Green Nation, who's got I'm looking at the hat. What do you got on there, brother? Is that old school? When does that?
SB Nation, Bleeding Green Nation.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Like that hat.
Nice. Nice.
Looking good. It's not Kelly Green, but that's okay. It's still very cool.
Oh, yeah. The Eagles were wearing Kelly Green jerseys. I don't know if you guys heard that. I don't know if that got if the marketing was good enough to wear.
Yeah, I think everybody on the planet knows they wore Kelly Green last night. And I don't know about you, BLG, but I'm glad the Eagles won because I can't stand the naysayers. If they lost that game, we can never wear Kelly Green again. We can't win. It's the past. Just put it in the past. Bury it. Don't even talk about it anymore. I love the Kelly Green, so I'm glad they won.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big time proponent of that. I think it's their best aesthetic, and I mean, it was a must win game. Not must win in terms of the season's over, but it was you needed to see how they would respond to that Jets loss, and they did exactly what they needed to do in that regard. Wasn't like an A+ game all around, but it was a really good win over a team that was lighting up the rankings in terms of points and offense, and they basically shut them down like no one else has this year.
Yeah, 498 yards a game coming in, 37 points. They end up with 244 total yards and really 10 points because you take away the pick six. That was the defense. And the Eagles are playing with Sidney Brown and Josiah Scott and Eli Ricks. I look at that defensive front, BLG, and I'm saying, I don't know who can block them. That group is deep and talented, and they mask a lot of deficiencies on the back end. Is that how you saw it?
That's exactly why, the Eagles pour their resources into the trenches. You see how if you put investment there, and obviously you have to make the right selections and pay the right players and whatnot. But once you invest those resources properly, you have a defensive line that can kind of take over the game. And look, the Dolphins were missing their starting left tackle, left guard at one point after Jalen Carter injured him, and then starting center as well. So it certainly helps. But same time, they'd only allowed 6 sacks all season. Tua was getting rid of the ball faster than any quarterback. So for them to still be able to pressure him, I thought was pretty impressive and disrupt that offense. And like you mentioned, you're still without your starting 2 safeties. You're down to your 3rd string option, a UDFA playing at slot cornerback. So that's a really impressive showing by Sean Desai and his unit.
How big a hit does Mike McDaniel's Coach of the Year campaign take after a game last night?
I still think he's going to be in the mix there, but I mean, it's a big one to be able to, again, it's impressive just how good this Dolphins offense has been this year. Not only are they entered this Week 7 game first in points and yards,
they're first in everything, I think, basically.
But even the margin from first to second is like the margin in points. It's like the same margin from second to 10th, and yards it was like second to 25th. Like they're just like way, way, way far out in front of everyone. So, he got out coached. So certainly, the Eagles are going to feel good about Sean Desai after that one. But I don't think it's like he was a fraud as much as the Eagles were just better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I still think Mike is a really good schemer, and they do some tremendous things. And when they could block the Eagles, I mean, it was pretty bad down the field with Tyreek. But from the Eagles' perspective, that's a really difficult player to deal with. But I thought coming in, BLG, I was kind of shocked at how many Eagles fans. I heard the word terrified a lot. Maybe it's Halloween season. Maybe everybody wants to be scared. I thought this was a statement game for Miami, not the Eagles. We know the Eagles are good. It's just a matter of how good. Miami, they lost by 4 touchdowns to Buffalo. Now they get waxed pretty good by Philadelphia. I think they're a good team, but I don't think they're a great team. And I think the Eagles kind of put them in their place. And I think Nick, during the week, you can kind of sense like, hey, yeah, Mike's doing a good job, but what about the job I'm doing? He was kind of feeling himself at the press conference afterwards.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are, they're going to be in the mix. Obviously, I think going to make the playoffs and be in the mix for the Super Bowl. And they're the favorites or anything. So I think they're a good team. But again, I think, the Eagles just outplayed them. I think throughout last week, kind of a sense that, the Eagles lost to the Jets. Well, they're going to get killed by the Dolphins. And I never really fully agreed with that, in part because I thought the Jets loss was uncharacteristic in some ways. I didn't think they were going to turn the ball over 4 times again. And even you looked at the line for this game. It started out as Eagles -2.5. I thought it might swing to the Dolphins side with people really, getting confident in them. It didn't. It actually swung back to the Eagles at -3, and that kind of told me there that okay, there isn't this true faith here in the Dolphins, and Vegas knows what they're doing. And if the Dolphins were just as good as everyone feared, then the Eagles would not have been the standard 3-point favorites.
Yeah, that's why I'm not buying what John is saying he was hearing. Well, there was panic with the Dolphins. No, if there was panic that the Dolphins would have been the favorite in the game. They weren't. The Eagles were the favorite, stayed as the favorite, even jumped back up further as the favorite. So I think the foolish were paranoid about the Dolphins coming in here and just running all over the Eagles. The general public, I don't think, was. All right, let me give you both the question. And if you want to just accept Nick Sirianni's answer, please do. But if you want to give me a theory of your own, go with it. Eagles up by 7, 10 minutes to play in the game, 4th and a yard plus. Sirianni sends out the punt team, then calls a timeout, then sends back out the offense and goes tush push and gets it at the 26-yard line, his own 26-yard line. He changed his mind there. What do you think either his conversation was or his line of thinking was? And Eagles have to be grateful that it went that way.
You want to take it first, John?
BLG.
He said after the game he wanted to see how close they were, basically, and where the spot was, and when he thought it was close enough. And he said he didn't want to waste the timeout, but felt he needed to get a better grip on where it was. I think the bigger part is, and he said it after the game, and I was right in it. I mean, they're basically, if you're a defense, he kind of framed it from the offensive perspective. You not only have to stop the Eagles on 3rd down, you got to stop them from being close on 3rd down because they're going to go for it and they're going to get it. Whereas Brandon Staley might go for it at the 26, but he's going to throw the football with Justin Herbert, and they might get it, they might not. The Eagles everybody else has 1st and 10. They have 1st and 9 because they're going for it. Early in the game. If they're at the 26, they'll probably punt it. But, if they're in plus territory, they're going for it from first quarter on. It's a huge advantage. But I did believe his take on it. Did you, BLG?
Yeah, it seemed to me at the time there was kind of, it might have been like a long one. They kind of wanted to figure out just how far that was and, get the measurement there. Absolutely the right decision to go for it. I believe that, before the result of the play happened, I'm not just saying that in hindsight. I think, you have to be aggressive, especially when you do have this play under your belt. Take advantage of it. Don't punt the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I think Eagles.
And that, by the way, the next set of downs, they also did it. So with the first 2 first downs were 4th and 1s. They converted, and they ended up going right down. I think it was 13 plays, and they took 6.5 minutes off the clock. Classic Eagles long drive. Time of possession in this game was absurd again. The Eagles 36 plus, Dolphins 23. Dolphins only ran 49 plays, I think.
And that was another key part in addition to, Sean Desai's defense stepping up, like the offense playing their part of ball control and keeping that Dolphins offense off the field, you certainly have to give him credit for that. And I think Eagles fans need to appreciate they have a coach who is aggressive and will do that because, I was looking at some other games on Sunday and, the Giants ultimately beat the Commanders, but Brian Dable was, out here kicking field goals and being super conservative. And,
that was a tough game to watch, BLG.
Yeah, it was. So, Eagles fans should not take for granted that they have a coach who's going to be aggressive and going to give his team an edge.
BLG last night, Julio Jones joined the fray, joined the party.
Why is he here? Why? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
1 target, 1 catch, 1 good block on the Goddard screen pass, the bubble screen that went for a touchdown. Did his job. No problems, no issues, no questions. I say good signing, Howie Roseman. What say
Was
you?
that Julio? I thought that was AJ. I wrote that was AJ. I got to screw that up. I thought that was AJ.
I think Julio came back. He was, by the way, could have been an illegal block like it was on the Jets last week because he was coming back down. He'd gone downfield and then came back to kind of make the block. So he may have actually gotten away with a penalty, but the Eagles had no penalties.
I got a lot. Obviously, I haven't watched the game. I've slept for three hours, but I thought it was AJ and Jordan on that tight end screen.
Jordan out front. But I thought Julio had a nice comeback, gotten away. And a lot of times that's all you have to do as a wide receiver is getting away of the defensive back. You don't have to lay him out.
Yeah.
All in all, I think Julio did his job, and he's going to end up being a nice addition. Not a major needle mover, but a nice addition to the Eagles. How about you, BLG?
Well, the size thing, like you just said, is relevant there when it comes to run blocking. I think Olamide Zaccheaus gives a good effort, but just having someone who's just way larger is a nice bonus. And, obviously Julio only joined the team on short notice last week. He signed on Tuesday. They didn't even officially practice on Wednesday, just had a walkthrough. So he's only had like 2 real practices with the team so far. So I'm sure they'll integrate him a bit more. I think he can potentially give you more than Quez Watkins, who's been disappointing and just unable to stay healthy, really, can give you potentially. So I think, we're going to see him worked in here. Fans really liked it. They gave him a big applause after that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got some Julio chants for the 3-yard reception. Yeah. Olamide played 41. Now, we knew Julio was going to be on the snap count. Mm-hmm. We got 15 to 25-ish, and he ended up at 16, so it was right there. Olamide played 41 snaps. Now, they had 72 offensive snaps, so a lot. Do you think that changes as do you think that flips and Julio's getting the 41, say 3 weeks from now, and Olamide is going to be down in the 15, 16? Because Nick went out of his way to say Olamide is always going to have a role. I saw a little bit of a disconnect between Howie and
he
Nick.
said that about Zach Pascal too, and Zach Pascal took his act to Indianapolis. So sorry, Coach. You can sing their praises, but doesn't necessarily equate to them having long-term success with the Eagles.
I mean short-term here.
Yeah, I think it could be a split. I think it might go more in Julio's favor at some point here, because it was when Quez was healthy and playing, even when he came back from the injury. Quez was really, truly the wide receiver 3 with Olamide only playing so many snaps and really not seeing much action. So, I think they should be honestly splitting that wide receiver 3 position.
Speaking of splitting, BLG, how are you with Nakobe Dean, Nicholas Morrow? Everything's working. So it's hard to criticize the defense at all. Do you like that philosophy in the slot? It was Josiah Scott and Eli Ricks trying to get through. Ultimately, I think it's going to be Bradley Roby when he's healthy. You like or dislike the rotating positions in the back 7?
In general, in theory, it doesn't seem ideal. You want your guys, you ride with them. But I mean, I thought Nicholas Morrow was playing pretty well. Turnover opportunities missed in that Week 5 game aside. So I don't think it's the worst thing. I mean, Nakobe Dean even admitted that or acknowledged that after the last game, that the guys ahead of him or the guys on the field when he was missing were playing well, so it's not like they're just going to suddenly disappear. So yeah, I think it's fine, and it seems to be working for them. I don't have an issue with that.
And here's where I'm going to give credit to Sean Desai. And John and I are both Coach Gannon fans. Maybe John a little bit more than me, but we're both Coach Gannon fans. Desai shows some flexibility here, which I don't think Gannon ever did. Gannon had his philosophy. Gannon had his guys. Gannon didn't sub. Gannon didn't change. I think Desai has shown some flexibility with using different guys at different positions. Last night just being one example of it. He had done it previously. I always think a coach has to stay open-minded. I get it. You want to stay true to your tenets and play the type of defense, but you can tinker a little bit here or there. And I think that Desai's been an outstanding tinkerer. I don't know if I meant to say it just that way, but you get my drift here.
Well, at the risk of being shat upon, which I will be anyway, defending JG, he never had to sit anybody down because they were all healthy. Why are you going to sit TJ Edwards down last year? Had a great season. And even Kaiser White, yeah, you could have got Nakobe some time.
That's the point, John.
But you're winning games. If Kaiser got hurt, I think you would have seen Nakobe and they might have tweaked things. But when you're winning games, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
then would you say the same thing? Would you say that same thing about Nakobe Dean now? Because the Eagles are winning games. Why would you take Nicholas Morrow off the field?
Well, I because they believe in Nakobe Dean. I'm a little bit shocked, to be honest. And I said I thought ultimately Nakobe would be back, and they just put him right in. I didn't think they would rotate Nicholas Morrow because they believe in Nakobe long term, and we know. Look, Nicholas.
So they didn't believe in Nakobe long term last year.
Well, no, he's a rookie. That's different. I mean, that's like Sidney Brown. They believe in Sidney Brown, but he's not playing a lot. He only played because of injuries. They still believe in Kaylee Ringo. He doesn't play at all except special teams. It's different with rookies, but in the case of Morrow, they cut him. So it's not like they loved him. They brought him back. They put him on the practice squad. Nakobe got hurt. He got an opportunity and played well. But I thought they would just go back to Nakobe because he's their long-term plan at the position. And he is playing more. What were the numbers? I got them right here. Nakobe was 30 of 49 and Nick was 19. So he's playing more, but I'm surprised they're playing Nicholas at all, to be honest. And it's directly attributed to how well he played. So he deserves credit for it. And no doubt about that.
That's what I'm giving Desai credit for, because he's letting play actually dictate the guys that he's playing, not long-term, short-term, where he was drafted, or whatever.
Nakobe's still
play the guys
more.
that are playing well.
I mean, to be honest, to this point, Morrow's played better than Dean, but Dean is still playing more. And that's because of long term. They think he's the guy. Because if it were just a meritocracy, yeah, why would you take Nick Morrow off the field until he has a bad game? But it hasn't come where he's had a bad game. Like, you keep waiting for it, and that shoe hasn't dropped.
No.
Yeah. He's
Good
played
on Nick
well.
Morrow. Good on Sean Desai. All right, BLG, last night, Jalen Hurts playing with the injury, yet they continued to push. Is Nick taking a chance there? I know it's such a key ingredient to the Eagles. You'd think a 1.5 yard game, but it is. It's where, it's how, it's a situation of the game. A little risky putting a guy with a potential bum knee in that situation. It never looks like he's getting hurt, but there's a pile of humanity down there on the field. You don't know what's going to happen.
I asked Jalen Hurts that question. I got a one-word answer.
What was the word?
Basically, no.
Just plain no.
Yeah.
No risk whatsoever.
No risk. Yeah.
He is a stone cold tough guy. How big a tough guy is Jalen Hurts, BLG?
I mean, he's pretty tough, and I think that's something that clearly resonates with his teammates. A lot of his teammates value that and acknowledge that. and talk about that as a motivating factor. You know, when you see the star quarterback out there is, you know, toughing it out and going through pain, you know, that certainly makes you want to go out there and perform well for him too. And also specifically, you know, if you're like the offensive line, you know, to protect him and make sure he's not getting hurt and hit further. So yeah, I mean, he's really tough. That was such a big part of the catalyst of the success, I think, for these Jalen Hurts successful Eagles teams is his personality, not just his play. And that's part of the equation there. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's zero risk on those plays. We saw Patrick Mahomes get hurt on a sneak last year.
Yeah.
It's possible, but I mean, I think it's a low chance.
We always talk about style points with this team. There have been two big issues: the red zone on offense and turnovers. They stopped a 9 turnover negative streak when Darius Slay picked off that pass. They had not gotten a turnover since the second quarter of the Tampa game. So it's been a while. You know, the Eagles, like, we practice that, we do this, but turnovers are so random, BLG. You know, to get 9 in a row in a negative direction and finally get one back, does the worm turn a little bit there? That's the one thing we can look at and say this defense has, I think, overachieved to this point when you think new coordinator, 5 new starters, but they aren't turning the football over. And they got a big one from Slay, who peeled off, by the way. That was a hell of a play. Peeled off to the wheel route and picked it. You think they have enough playmakers? Is that going to turn?
You know, we did see, again, I mentioned earlier, Nicholas Morrow unable to finish or able to, you know, catch that pick that he had on Matthew Stafford or jump on the fumble in week 5. So it's not like they've been totally far away from it. I do tend to think, especially with how they're pressuring the quarterback, where we might see some more forced fumbles here, some strip sacks.
Yeah.
They got go the Eagles' way, or, you know, maybe some more hit as or quarterback getting hit as he's throwing and maybe creating some opportunities. Hasn't happened so far. And that's one of the biggest issues, I think you could say, from the Jets game, where the defense was otherwise outstanding. The fact that you have Zach Wilson, who averages a turnover a game, basically, you couldn't get one on him.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
But on the whole, you know, yeah, I think some of that's just kind of luck of the draw, and the Eagles had a lot of luck in that regard last year, and that's always kind of going to stabilize year to year, and you're not going to just always dominate the turnover margin or takeaway margin like that. So really, what they have to focus on, I think, is eliminating the turnovers on their own, because that's issue.
And are you going to give Hurts a hard time for that pick last night? The guy comes unblocked. He tries to get the ball through. It gets tipped up in the air. It goes down as an interception. And, oh, by the way, Jalen had a couple of those last week that there were other contributing factors other than him just making a bad decision to throw a bad ball. Certainly that pick 6 last night to me was just a good play by the defense.
Yeah, I had a problem with the fumble, not the interception.
Yeah.
The fumble I had a problem with, because it seemed like Jalen felt pressure that wasn't there, and then he realized it wasn't there and was going to try to extend, and pretty poor ball security there. So I had no problem with the interception. That happens. You know, somebody tips the ball, goes right to the player. He said, I guess I'm not living well after the game. That's bad luck. But the fumble, I think there's legit criticism there. But
I'll even give Jalen a little cover there in that Lane Johnson got beat on the play. Lane Johnson never gets beat on a play. You don't expect Lane Johnson's man to be the guy who's going to strip the ball from you, because it never happens, and it did on that play. Yeah,
boy, that's a hell of a streak come to an end. I think they're going to give him credit for that sack. They should. It was on Lane, but that was a hell of a streak. That's amazing, considering how many great pass rushers he's faced. BLG, that is one of the. It's not like a obvious stat to people like passing yards or receptions or running yards. That's one of the greatest runs I've ever seen. It really is. And in this era of the NFL, Nick Bosa, think about Nick Bosa, completely shuts him down. Amazing run. And it was Jalen Phillips who finally got him. It was a very good pass rusher.
Nice player.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's incredible that Lane was even out there for that game, really.
Yeah.
I mean, after looking like he could be potentially going on IR, but certainly you talked about Jalen Hurts being tough. Lane Johnson, obviously very tough. And for him to even just be out there on Sunday night obviously made a big difference, even if it's not, he's not a 100% version of himself. Just to have him out there at all is, it's a big deal.
All right, BLG, let's look ahead to wrap this bad boy up here. And thank you, as always, for streaming in. Next 2 games, divisional games at Washington, and then the Cowboys come here. We sung the praises, rightfully so. The toughness of Jalen Hurts, the defensive line, dominance. 6-1, real good spot to be in. Only 2 other teams, only one other team as of now. 49ers win tonight. They'll get to 6-1 too. So they're in the conversation of the best team in the NFL, and they should be. What's your one concern for the next 2 weeks, other than divisional games or more competitive and a little funky or whatever? What is the thing the Eagles need to be working on in those highly competitive practices or walkthroughs they have? Love competitive walkthroughs. What are the still 1 or 2 things that they could still potentially get better in and improve on?
Well, they got to get healthy for one. Obviously, that's an easy one. But getting Reed Blankenship back, I think, would be really nice for this defense. But looking at beyond injuries, one of the things that I think has been an issue. We talked about Jalen Hurts, the fumble. He's holding onto the ball for forever, and you look at the data on this. Entering week 7, he had the 2nd longest average time to throw. It's only barely just ahead of Justin Fields, who notoriously holds the ball for forever. And 3.21 seconds is exactly where Hurts was in 2021. He was 39th out of 39 quarterbacks that year. He improved last year to 2.86 seconds. So that's a big difference. I mean, it might not seem like much, 0.4 seconds, but
yeah, that's a huge difference. Yeah.
I think there's a combination of, needing to see the field better, needing to actually pull the trigger and make throws and throw some with anticipation more often here. So he's not taking hits and he's getting the ball out faster and he's not missing some of these throws. So, I like how Jalen Hurts battled back from his turnovers last night. He didn't let it snowball and totally spiral out of control. But he has to cut down on the mistakes, and I think he needs to get rid of the ball faster.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn on that. I'll end it there. Make sure you follow Brandon on X at Brandon Gouton. Read him at Bleeding Green Nation. Does a tremendous job. The podcast as well. When you talk about, you mentioned Justin Fields, he's not a very good quarterback right now, but he extends plays. He can do some things. So it tends to be the guys that can extend plays while hold on to the football the longest. And there's going to be some turnovers because of it, but there's going to be a lot of big plays as well. Like the AJ pass, 32 yards, that was Jalen extending. And all of a sudden the Eagles are in a position to get a touchdown. So there's a give and take. And I don't really want to see him have to be Tua, because that means you got a crappy offensive line and you can't hold on to the ball. So I'm kind of torn. I get what you're saying, but I don't want the ball out in 2.2 seconds, because that tells me you're not holding up front. And that means Jack Driscoll's out there, or, a bunch of other injuries. I don't know if that's necessarily a good sign, but I'd love to see better ball security when people do get home. I think that's fair.
It's definitely a fine line, and you have to balance it, because you don't want them, like you said, getting rid of it so fast, like Tua. And the touchdown, the near touchdown to AJ Brown is a result of being able to extend the play. But I think too often this year it's drifting a little bit too much towards the hold it side, and not enough of that big play potential. So I think they have to find a way to speed it up a little bit in general.
And one last thing about Jalen Hurts' toughness. 4 words, 2 names: Marcus Mariota, Tanner McKee. We never bring up either of those two names. And we need to be thankful that we don't have to bring up either of those two names.
Yeah, we saw Marcus warming up. That was not a good feeling. Maybe it was just
a little nervous. Could you sense the nervousness in the crowd?
I don't think too many people noticed, but and Nick said after he didn't know, he didn't tell Marcus to warm up. So who knows if he's telling the truth, because Nick, basically admitted he doesn't always tell the truth.
No, he does. If he doesn't think it's advantageous to him to tell the truth, he'll look you right in the eye and lie to you.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee Gouton never lies to us. That's why we have him on. Thank you, sir. We'll get you back on in a couple of weeks. Thanks, BLG.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Brandon Lee Gouton, Bleeding Green Nation, here with us on Birds 365. When we come back, you got to do it for me again. You got to read it. And you even did a great job of reading it as Nick Sirianni when you did. His response to the question.
He went down the week for Rob Motti, because Rob's not here every day.
Right.
So he went down. He went down the whole week. He fast forwarded through the whole week.
But you're glad Rob Motti was there last night, because
Rob saved me. Yes. Thank you, Rob, again. Yeah.
All right. McMullen and McDonald. We got our buddy Jeff Kerr. Usually jumps in early. He's going to jump in for the second half of today's Birds 365. McDonald and McMullen coming back in just a sec.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys here on Birds 365. Hour down, hour to play. Jeff Kerr in about 20 minutes will jump in, give us his perspective on last night's Eagles' impressive win. Would you say last night was their most impressive win of the season, Johnny Mac?
Everything runs together. Probably. Yeah, probably.
Has to be for me. Shoot, I
Yeah,
picked the Dolphins to
I'm
find a
trying
way
to
to win.
think. I mean, in hindsight, you always move on. Like early, I thought Minnesota was pretty impressive, but they stink in week 2. Now it doesn't look as impressive. Um, but that kind of stuff happens. Tampa, Washington, they didn't play well. At Los Angeles was a little bit tougher. Yeah, that definitely their
It's
best
the
win.
only win on the schedule that they have against a team that has a winning record.
Yeah,
Everybody
definitely.
else is either below or at
And
500.
now we're going to say this happened last year, though. Now, not but a bunch of people are going to say, well, Miami's not that good. And that's what they did last year. And I coined that phrase, they turned somebody's into nobodies. That's what they did again with Miami. They were a somebody, number 1 ranked offense coming in, 37 points a game. PFF had them as the number 1 team in the NFL, and they waxed them. So now you can't just say, oh, they're nobodies, but there will be a bunch of people saying that.
And they will get the chance to prove that they're not nobody because they've got New England next week, who all of a sudden, Bill Belichick back from the grave. They had him dead and buried last week.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
The owner's talking about moving away from. No, they wasn't. I get it. There are some very good reporters out there with very good sources. Kraft is not pulling the plug on Belichick in the middle of the season. I don't care if they're 1-16. He's not pulling the plug in the middle of the season. They go out and beat Buffalo, and then the week after that, they get Kansas City. Somebody's got to come out of that as somebody. Somebody's got to win that game, John. And either the Chiefs are going to re-elevate to the number 1 team in the NFL, or you're right, the Dolphins will go back to being a nobody in that game.
Yeah, and people say that, but they were somebody when the Eagles played them. Supposedly. So we'll see how it goes. Now, I Joe Shad, who does a great job covering the Dolphins used to cover them for ESPN. I think he's at the Palm Beach paper now. He just put on Twitter a few minutes ago, within the hour, the tush push is not a legitimate football play. It's not how football was meant to be played. It's also lame and can cause injuries. I don't know. Nobody except Eagles fans will miss it once it's banned in the off season. Boy, they are in people's heads with this damn play.
Really are.
They really. I mean, it's. I don't like the play either. It's legal and they use it. I mean, other people try it and they can't do it. I don't know what's wrong with people. I don't like the bubble screen. I say all the time. I think it's the ugliest play in football. It worked for the Eagles yesterday with Dallas Goedert. And there'll be the next 20 won't work. Mark that down. But anyway, it occasionally works. It's not the most aesthetic play. They didn't create it. The Bush push is the most famous of them all, where USC beat Notre Dame back in the day. It's legal. They use it. You can use it for your other teams. Boy, they're in people's heads. They really are.
And Sirianni is throwing gas on the fire by doing it, like bringing the team off the field, reevaluating during a timeout, saying, all right, it's not 2 yards, we can get it, and going back out and getting it again without it being close. It really wasn't even a debate as to whether he got it or not. Yeah, it's a major tool in the toolbox right now for Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, both with the result
and
I
will say this, Jody, for Joe, and Peter King is the most notable, because I think Peter said the same thing. It's not how football was meant to be played. What does that even mean? Did Pop Warner tell them that? What does that even mean? You know how football wasn't meant to be played? Like a freaking math equation. Every sport. But guess what? That's how it's played. Why is this any difference? I don't. It bothers me.
And here's the thing that bothers me, because, hey, I'm on record. I can't go back and do a 180 and try and hide the fact that I said, yeah, it looks more like a rugby scrum than a football play. I absolutely said that. I'm on record with this. Here's what bothers me. I think more people have become more outspoken just because the Eagles have mastered it, because they never get stopped, because they're just better at it than anybody else. Because we've been doing it, the Eagles have been doing it now for 2 years. So the outrage of it has grown over time. And I firmly believe that a big part of that outrage is because your team tried it, you can't do it. The Eagles never get stopped doing it. If you're just purely, if at day one, the first time you go, yeah, that doesn't look like a football play to me, and you've stuck with that, then I'll give you credit for it. And I think Peter King falls into that category. But if you were
but why do reporters
and just now, because the Eagles have added this to their arsenal and they're basically unstoppable with it, where were you the first time you saw it? That's
well, I guess to me personally, it bothers me more with reporters than fans. Look, I get fans are going to want their team to be successful. Whether if it works for the Eagles fans love it. If it doesn't work for Dolphins fans, they hate it. I get that part of it. Reporters, I don't get. I mean, what do you care? It's legal. They use it. And oh, by the way, they're not 100%. I think they're 41 or 44. Now, generally,
that's a high
when they don't get it. Yeah, when they don't get it on 3rd and 1, it's because it's 3rd in the long run, and they're going for it on 4th down, and they know that, so they just do it twice in a row. So they generally get it anyway. But yeah, for me, it's the reporter part. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like you can say, like me, I say all the time, I don't like that play. It's not aesthetic. I don't like the way the game is played in the modern era. That all is fair game. I have no problem saying it's an ugly play. It's this and that. It's legal. That's it. They can run it, and they're successful at it. End of story.
And I'm telling you, John, mark this down. And I know the Giants had a couple of guys hurt on their attempt at the cheek sneak, but nothing major. That's what it's going to take. If there is a faction in the National Football League that wants to see it banned for whatever reason, and I'll heavily hint at the fact that the Eagles have this advantage over everybody else, and they're always trying to balance it for everybody, they need an injury. That's the only way that they're going to be able to win over the competition committee. Listen, it's just not right. We're all about protecting.
I thought they were going to ban it last year. I really did. I think ultimately they will ban it. Just a matter of getting the votes. And I've said pretty consistently, I don't think it's going to matter that much for the Eagles, because I think the Eagles are going to get it anyway. Quarterback sneaks, because their quarterback sneak success is about the quarterback squatting 600 pounds. That's why I was a little concerned about the knee injury, because maybe Jalen doesn't have his typical get off with the lower body. But I think if they ultimately, I've said it numerous times on the show, it's counterintuitive, but I think it would help the Eagles, because the Eagles are still going to be really good against the quarterback sneak. With the quarterback sneak. Now, where it was wrong, I would assume that other teams would get better by shoving, but they haven't.
That's what I was going to say. You and I agreed on if they moved away from it during the offseason, Eagles would have still done it, but the other teams haven't been able close to get to the level that the Eagles can do it. And you know what I say to that? Shame on all the other teams. Maybe you need to work a little bit harder. Maybe you need to get an offensive lineman who's willing to go to the ground and take out the other team's legs. That's on them, not on the Eagles. The Eagles understand it, have devised it, have the guys to pull it off, and have the guys with the nerve to go in there and get that physical. Why should they be punished for it?
Boy, they are in people's heads. That's why, yeah, they really are. And by the way, Nick Sirianni, he did that in the press conference as well. He is really he's a heel already in other cities. Like, obviously he's very popular here, but boy, he was over the top last night. Whew.
Yeah,
he was feeling himself
straight into the camera saying, "Yeah, you can't stop us." He really was feeling his oats a little bit last night with both you local guys and national guys. Say, here's the way the week is going to go. I'm not going to answer the question on Tuesday. Then different guys going to ask me about it on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, it's going to be I'm going to push it off till Friday and then check the injury report. Yeah, he was feeling his oats. He desperately wanted and needed that win last night, and they got it. One guy we haven't given enough credit to so far today, got to give him his props, is A.J. Brown. Tied an NFL record last night for his 5th consecutive game of 125 yards or more. When Howie Roseman...
Alvin Johnson. That's pretty good company.
I think he's got a plaque there in Canton. So, yeah, A.J.'s on a pretty good course. John, when they acquired him last year, I thought, wow, that's a heck of a trade by Howie Roseman. But it's even bigger than that. It's even better than that. This guy has been tremendous. I know you and I have talked about it before, but I want to ask you about it again. Do you think Jalen Hurts had an influence on that deal? Because we didn't know it at the time, or at least I didn't know. Maybe you knew. You're a better reporter than I am. I didn't know that they were as tight as they were prior to. They didn't play collegiately together. So I didn't know A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts were that good buds. But we've since found out as soon as A.J. got here that the relationship that they have. Do you think, and I don't know Howie to be this, but I don't know him to not be it either. Do you think that perhaps Jalen Hurts went to Howie Rose and said, if you can get me A.J. Brown, he and I could do tremendous things together here in Philadelphia. How much influence at all do you think he had on that deal?
2%.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he was thrilled, and I'm sure he gave Howie all 5-star recommendations. But I mean, let's be honest. If Calvin Ridley didn't pick up the betting app, he would have been here, and he would have been. They wouldn't even tried to get A.J. Brown. If Christian Kirk didn't get overpaid by Jacksonville, he would have been here, and they don't go after A.J. Brown. If Allen Robinson, what a disaster that would have been, didn't choose the then Super Bowl champion Rams over the Eagles, A.J. Brown wouldn't be here. So, yeah, they went down a lot of different avenues before they got to A.J. Brown. And luckily, they didn't get any of the other ones. And they panicked a little bit and knew they needed an upgrade, and they gave up a lot for A.J. Brown. Not only a first-round pick, but also $100 million. So, and Nick mentioned that, thanking Jeffrey Lurie for paying $100 million for A.J. Brown. That was not plan A. It was not plan B. It was not plan C. It was plan D. And sort of, all right, we got to overpay a little bit. And it worked. He was the final piece. I say it all the time. That whole offense fell into place. As good as Devontae Smith is, and I think Devontae's tremendous, A.J. Brown he's their Tyreek Hill. Like, if you take Tyreek Hill off the Dolphins, they are not the number one offense in the NFL. Not even close. He is that final piece of the puzzle, and everything fits with him. And that's what A.J. did for the Eagles offense.
And last night was just another prime example of it. I knew when they gave him the touchdown that it was coming off the board. At least it showed well on TV. I don't know what angle you had from the press box, but his elbow came down at the one. So you knew he wasn't getting a touchdown, and he kind of wanted the touchdown, but he got a touchdown on the game. So,
and by the way, his touchdown he did get, 2 broken tackles, just blowing through people. I mean, yeah, his yards after catch. I thought he was they were testing him for a concussion. It ended up, he got hit in the face. He had some blurry vision. When he forced his way for a first down, he should have been tackled basically 4 yards short. And he just bowled his way for a first down. He's having a great season. Great season.
And let me give you a wink and a nod and implant my tongue in my cheek. But DeAndre Swift, you couldn't get into the end zone on that last play where you actually try. He breaks tackles, gets down inside the 10-yard. You couldn't take it all the way in there, big guy, so the Eagles could run 3 straight victory formations and end the game. Yours truly, was heavily on the over last night. I thought it was going to be a 60-point game, let alone a 51.5-point game. If DeAndre goes in, it's the over. I hit the Eagles right on the nose. I said the Eagles would have 31 points. They scored 31 points. I just underestimated the Cowboys.
It's not college. You don't need those style points. So, but, it wouldn't have surprised me if Nick wanted to run things up a little bit. He was,
I give him credit for not doing that because he didn't need to. Did it cost me money? Yeah, it did, Nick. Thank you very much. But I actually tip my hat to you because, you did the right thing. Take the 3 straight knees, get the hell out of Dodge. You won by 2 touchdowns. You took a 5-1 team and you discarded them. Good on you. You didn't need to rub salt in the wounds because you never know. These 2 teams could meet again in February, and you don't want to have that as potential bulletin board material. So good on the Eagles. No, instead, I'm going to say, DeAndre, come on, keep fighting, big guy. You could have made it into the end zone. You broke 2 tackles. You couldn't break 1 more and get it on the play. You could see I make the desperate better who got beat last night on the over. All right, quickie timeout. McDonald and McMullen. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, usually jumps into our.
Hopefully he's up. Hopefully, Jeff was stuck. Jeff was locked in with.
Oh, he was with you.
Yeah, he was locked in. He was in Marty's car as well.
And he's got a little longer ride home than Johnny Mac does. So Jeff said, come on, can I take 9:20? Can I get an extra hours of sleep and come out with you guys? I said, yeah, you want 9:20, you got 9:20. So I thank BLG for coming on early with us. He lives right near the stadium, so I know he'd get up early. Jeff Kerr going to do a Monday recap of certainly mostly Eagles, but maybe we'll ask him a couple questions around the league, including we should look ahead to the Monday Nighter tonight with the 49ers trying to get even with the Eagles at 6-1 in the NFC. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
You got John McMullen and Jody McDonald, your Mac and Mac guys. Jeff Kerr, I just texted him. He'll be joining us in just a minute. But before Jeff jumps in, now, again, my apologies. These are just questions that actually have a historical basis. So I need John McMullen's reporting skills on this. I asked him about A.J. Brown, and he went to, if wide receiver doesn't get suspended for gambling, might not have gotten A.J. Brown. If Kirk didn't get overpaid might not have gotten A.J. Brown. Those are just facts, folks. That's good reporting by John McMullen. I trust him on this. So let me ask you this one before we punch Jeff Kerr up. How close were the Philadelphia Eagles to hiring McDaniel as their head coach rather than Nick Sirianni a couple of years ago?
Yeah. Very close. Wow.
Very close.
Actually, it's semantic, but how we recommended Josh McDaniels be the head coach, and Jeffrey Lurie made the decision that those two ultimately would butt heads, and I think Jeffrey was correct. So when the owner isn't on the same page, how close can it be? But Howie was ready to go in that direction, which would have not worked out well, my assumption would be.
Oh, by the way, Josh McDaniels, you get some right, you get some wrong. I've been saying this for years. He's not a head coach, and he proved it again this week with Brian Hoyer out there. Yeah, Eagle fans, be very thankful. For those of you,
by the way, I was just talking, Jody, real quick, and we got to bring Jeff up. Lincoln Riley as well. Lincoln Riley could have had the Eagles job if he wanted it.
Yeah,
that would have been the guy.
I think Lincoln Riley would have been fine.
That was the first call that Howie made. And Lincoln isn't interested going to the NFL at this point. I think ultimately it got here. Yeah, I don't agree. Offensively, look, great. Defensively, does he even pay attention to defense? Because I've yet to see that.
No, I think he could have gotten himself a good defense quarter. I think when and if and more when Lincoln Riley makes a jump, he's going to be good. McDaniel stinks. So if they came close to taking Lincoln Riley, I don't know that they wouldn't have. I don't know how you can project as much success as Sirianni, but I think they would have been close.
Better be lucky than good. Go back to Doug. They wanted to hire Adam Gase first. Adam asked for the moon, and they went in a different direction coming off Chip Kelly. Then they wanted to hire Ben McAdoo. There was a welcome bouquet in the NovaCare complex with Ben McAdoo's name on it, and the Giants convinced him to turn around and take their job. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, Jody McDonald.
I'll tell you, the McDaniel dodged bullet was the biggest one of them all. They've dodged a couple, but that
Adam Gase is a pretty big dodge. That guy's a freaking disaster on two. So is Josh, though.
Yeah. I'll tell you, McDaniel's worse. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, going to jump in with us. He was down there locked in with McMullen. Sources are telling me it was your fault, Kerr, that you were dragging, and that's why people were waiting for you, and they locked the door just before all you guys got there. It was on you. Is that true?
I got my story before he did. I was waiting for him.
All right. Sorry. I tried to take you back there, John. Didn't work. I apologize.
Yeah, we got locked in. And again, come on, stadium ops. You got to stay. We got to stay late. You got to stay late. And the irony is they stay late. They just locked the stuff. Let us out. We're trying to leave. That's what they want. Let us out. All right. I digress.
They even turned the lights off on us at 1:00. That was our sign.
Yeah. All right.
They really shut the lights off?
Did they? I don't think they shut.
On the field they did for like 2 minutes.
Oh, on the field. on the field. Yeah.
That's a good sign. Yeah, it's please leave now. Yeah. But then you got to be able to leave the door open for these guys. I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Jeff Kerr, did you laugh at Nick Sirianni in the post-game stuff when he said, "Here's how it's going to go, Rob Marty, during the week. John McMullen's going to ask me on Tuesday. I'm going to dodge a question. And then Elliot Short Park's going to ask me on Wednesday. I'm going to say, you got to wait till Thursday. Then on Thursday, I'm going to say, check the injury report on Friday." How much was Nick Sirianni feeling his oats after last night's game?
So I actually wasn't there for that. I read the transcript, but I had to mention the Rob last night. I can't say what I said to Rob about the answer, but John made the whole thing laugh because he goes, "Well, he mentioned me in it," and I'm just like, boy, Nick was feeling it last night. You can tell he really wanted to beat Mike McDaniel in the Dolphins.
Oh yeah, he did. He did not like all the attention Mike McDaniel was getting around the NFL. Pretty much look at me, what I've done versus look at what Mike McDaniel. And he's right, but yeah, I think that was a little bit more than typical for Nick. He'll never admit it, but I think it was pretty clear.
But let me add this, and again, you guys might not know this because you were at the stadium. I'm sitting here at home watching the game, and this is for a whole bunch of Eagle fans out there. Both Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico bent over backwards to praise Nick Sirianni last night. Gave him major props in the broadcast of the game. And I get it. If the hometown fans just hate national announcers because they're used to their guys doing their game and looking at it through their colored glasses. And national guys aren't going to give you that. But both Collinsworth and Tirico were giving Nick plenty of love. So if Nick was angling for it last night in the post-game show, he'll be even happier if he goes back and watches the broadcast today because they gave him the props he earns.
And they should, by the way. He's got his record is ridiculous at this point, especially when you look at it since that 2-5 start. Yeah, and when you lose the one game to the Jets, it seems so out of character, and they bounce back. That's the most impressive thing I think about this team. They don't have losing streaks. They only had one last year, and that's when Jalen got hurt. So we'll start there, Jeff Kerr. The one thing that could probably derail this team, there's a couple things. We already saw Lane Johnson, but Jalen Hurts to Marcus Mariota. When Marcus Mariota was warming up, was there any angst in Jeff Kerr's mind?
When Marcus was warming up, I started thinking to myself, well, where is Jalen? And how bad is this injury that the Eagles are trying to play off? And Jalen came out, and let's just put it this way. I said to Andrew DeCecco, did Jalen just see in the bathroom too long or something? But
getting an IV.
He was getting the IV. And I mean, he just didn't look comfortable early in the second half. I thought he was getting better playing with the brace. And I thought it was pretty telling, like when he told us, I forget who asked the question, but do you think the knee brace is going to be a problem? And he says, I hope not. And I think that was him basically admitting it was a problem early, but once he started getting in the zone, he finished 10 of 13 for 150 yards, a touchdown after that interception, and converted 2 tush pushes. So it seemed like if he has to wear the brace, he will, but I think between all of us here, he probably would not want to wear it.
All right. Since I questioned him last week, I got to give him props this week. Brian Johnson, poor decision. John says that's the head coach. Don't put that on Brian Johnson's plate. Well, he actually called the play, and I know he did so with Nick's tacit approval, but the interception cost him the game, and I didn't like his run-pass ratio for the entire game. I thought he did his play calling based on who the Jets didn't have out there on the field rather than the actual situation of the game. I thought he had a bad week play calling. He was pretty damn good last night. Got to give Brian Johnson, I don't think we've mentioned his name yet today. You got to give him a major thumbs up with how the Eagles moved the football last night.
Yeah, I would agree. And I want to say I got the offense fired up on Twitter because I joked that, well, the Eagles really miss Shane Steichen, and that's going to be part of my overreactions piece for later today. Do they or don't they? And since then, they scored 2 touchdowns, and Jalen Hurts looked Jalen Hurts again. Wasn't turning the football. Honestly, that's the real problem with this football team. Jalen just turns the football over way too much. It's 10 turnovers in 7 games. He already has more turnovers this year than he did last year. 8 interceptions, 2 fumbles. And I know people will say, well, this one isn't his fault. This one isn't his fault. Like, I agree, but it doesn't matter. Sheet is the stat sheet, and that's what it says. It doesn't say dropped or – yeah, he has more dropped interceptions this year than he did last year, which is one of the advanced stats they put on these quarterbacks. So
turnover-worthy plays. Yeah. Brock Purdy's got a lot of those turnover-worthy plays. But if they don't turn over, who cares? But in theory, I get what you're saying. The more you put it in peril, somebody's going to catch it at some point. And we'll see. He definitely has to take care of the football better. But getting to Jody's point about Brian Johnson, I will say the best thing that could have happened to the Eagles happened at the coin toss. They lost it. Miami elects to defer, and the Eagles go right down the field, 20-20, spectacular, as usual. And then they get in the red zone. And Jalen Hurts, design quarterback run with a bad knee, -2 yards. Kenny Gainwell, 2nd and 10, because that was 1st and goal. So it became at the 8, it became 2nd and 10. Kenny Gainwell off left guard for 1 yard. And then all of a sudden you're 3rd and long in the red zone. And they went with a Jalen Hurts quarterback draw and got 3 yards. And the Boo Birds were out that quickly with that red zone play calling monstrosity, and they settled for the Jake Elliott field goal. I agree with Jody O'Brien. I think Brian's done a good job. But, man, they are banging their head against the wall in the red zone. They were so good with the run game, Jeff, last year in the red zone. They refused to say, all right, we got to evolve a little bit. Maybe we got to throw it on first down. And ultimately, they got to Dallas Goedert. That was at the 19. So technically,
that's a red zone touchdown.
That's a red zone touchdown. And it was a pass. I think that was first down, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. Are they going to evolve? They keep saying they have to evolve. Are they going to evolve in the red zone?
Does Julio Jones help you evolve? That's what I'm curious about. But they don't pass the ball. Does it matter? I still say the issue is, and I had this conversation right after the game last night because I do work with an Eagles fan at CBS, and he goes, I don't know why you're on DeAndre Swift so much. He's a good player. And I said, well, if he's a good player, how come
you were on DeAndre? You were on DeAndre last week. By the way, Dallas was 2nd down. It was
second down, right?
Second down.
Yeah. My issue is just the running back position in general. I don't think there's any running back they trust in the red zone. Boston's not the only one see the ball. Kenny Gainwell, they tried last night, and he did score a touchdown, but it was it wasn't a touchdown I felt good about. They don't.
That was a good run, though. That was a good run.
It was a good run.
Kept his balance. Could have gone down. That was actually a good run. But still, I'm with you, Jeff. You used the word evolve, John. They need to evolve past Gainwell is their inside the 10 guy. I'm sorry.
They got to play Swift more there.
Is just better.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I think they got to evolve from the run, run it on 1st and goal to, all right, let's throw it. Let's give the big bodies a chance. Now you have 3 of them. You have AJ, you have Dallas, you have Julio. You got to throw it. And then if you start to have some success with that, like they did with Dallas from the 19, then maybe the running game comes back because teams aren't hyper-focused on stopping it. I think that's where the evolution has to come.
I would agree. By the way, John, don't you think part of the evolution, what does Rashad Penny have to do to get on this football field?
Somebody's got to get hurt.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
He's better than Boston Scott. I'm sorry. They'll never convince me.
Well,
Boston
but
Scott.
Boston, remember, Boston's the third running back, so that's where Fit comes in. I always talk about Fit. Like, he's a good kickoff returner. He helps them on special teams. Rashad's not going to help you on special teams. So
that's probably
until one or two gets hurt, or you bench Kenny Gainwell, Rashad Penny's not getting on the field.
Well, they're not benching Kenny Gainwell.
Boston's locked in as number 3 because of his special teams ability.
And he justified his position there with a nice kickoff return.
Yeah, he's been a great kickoff returner since they gave him that job. And it took him way too long to give him that job, by the way.
That OZ kickoff return last night was one of the most putrid kickoff returns I've ever seen. I'm like, wait,
he was like, oh, crap. He was like, oh, crap, it's coming to me. It's coming to me.
Yeah, that doesn't something that we're not looking forward to. All right, John and I started the show by giving credit to the defensive line. As tough as Jalen was, as good as A.J. Brown was, I think the game was won on the defensive line by the Eagles getting pressure on Tua, and the Dolphins bent over backwards to get it out of his hands as quickly as possible, and he still couldn't get it out of his hands, and they were making plays in the backfield. Right now, they are the best unit in all of football. Is there any team that you see on the Eagles' upcoming schedule where you go, Jeff, all right, this might be the one team that can actually keep the Eagles' defensive line at bay? I don't know that team. Do you?
Let's look immediately. Washington, no. I don't think Dallas can. And Dallas's offensive line's been good. Buffalo's held. Yeah.
I would say Dallas if they play well on a particular week, but
you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Kansas City, I think they're going to be a little fired up to play them because of the whole Super Bowl grass thing. I they're going to want to prove a point against their offensive. I still think their offensive line could stop them, but that'll be it. Buffalo, I don't think so. San Fran, maybe. I don't know. Seattle, no.
San Fran, the worst 4 players on their offense are offensive linemen.
Yeah,
they had Trent Williams is going to the Hall of Fame, and then the other 4 stink on ice.
Yeah. I mean, no one ever wants to admit this with the Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel people that they really don't groom good offensive linemen. They beat bad teams to a pulp.
Well, they were good for a while. And Trent is phenomenal. Trent is one of the best left tackles of all time.
Now they got nobody. Like they losing Mike McGlinchey was
Mike McGlinchey. That was a big loss. He's not great, but he's just good. He was solid. And they had Alex Mack for a while. They had a couple decent.
That was a while ago, though. Yeah. Like this is a while ago.
Recent, That the group they have now.
That's
why I say the same thing. I said the same thing with Miami. I remember having this discussion, Jody, with you a couple weeks ago. When San Francisco, everybody had San Francisco number 1. I was like, I think the Eagles would beat San Francisco because they can't block the Eagles. They won't be able to block the Eagles front. Same thing I thought with
here's
Miami.
The beauty that we'll know that in about 7 weeks. How long till 49ers come to down take on the Eagles?
And
that's the best part about the schedule this year.
December
you don't
3rd,
have to hear the you don't play anybody and you don't your schedule's not tested. Oh no, you're going to be battle tested this year. The Eagles can really flex their muscles against some of these teams.
Now San Francisco is a great team, and you're going to see that tonight.
They are.
Because I think they're going to wax Minnesota. But styles make fights, I say all the time. And how are they going to deal with Hassan Reddick and that like Josh Sweat's going to have a tough game against San Francisco. I just talked about Trent. If Trent's healthy, Trent's hurt, by the way. He might not play tonight. If he's healthy, Josh Sweat's going to have a tough night. Everybody else, though, it's like, and the Eagles on the other end, because if the Eagles have the best front in football, which I think they do, San Francisco's probably number 2. but we've already seen Lane Johnson handle Nick Bosa on a couple occasions. They're better equipped to handle San Francisco's front than vice versa. That's kind of how I look at that matchup.
I would agree. By the way, I always, when I pick NFL games, I have to pick 5 a week. I always go by the trenches. I was destroyed in that regard this week because how the heck did the Giants beat Washington? Someone answer that for me.
Yeah, that was a bad game. I actually watched that game from start to finish. I don't know how I did it.
What did you tell me, John? It sent football back like 50 years. You wrote.
It was such an ugly. I don't know what was it. I think I was almost entertained by the ugliness and just like, what is going on here? What is anybody trying to accomplish? It was such a bad football game. I like Ron Rivera a lot, but man, I mean,
that's an unacceptable loss.
Yeah. That's
the Commanders do have a very good defensive line. Their offensive line is playing like crap.
Yeah,
and I'm not the biggest Sam Howell fan, and he does from time to time hold on the ball too long, but he doesn't even get a chance. Like you blink and somebody's grabbing his shoulder.
I think they have like 3 of the top 5 pressure giver uppers. The guys who give up pressures on the offensive
Sam Cosmi
line.
is one of them.
Yeah,
he's not good.
Yeah, they're
Eagles might crush that team next week. I hate them. I hate to
they
say
seem
it
to always
already,
get the weird thing about Washington, they seem to play the Eagles better here than there at FedEx Field. The Eagles seem to play a little bit better down there. I expect the same thing to continue. Yeah, how are they going to block? They can't block the Giants. How are they going to block the Eagles? I don't think it's going to happen twice in a row. It's boring, I think, for people when I always lean on the trenches as you do, Jeff. But man, that's why the Eagles win. All the other stuff is the eyewash, the Mike McDaniel. That's the stuff everybody likes. AJ, 125 straight yards for 5 straight games. That's phenomenal. We just saw Tyreek Hill.
By the way, John, I brought that up to him last night, just talking a little off the record. You know what he did? Just smiled, shrugged his shoulders, and said, what was our record? What was our record? And I said 4-1. He said, okay.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill's the best receiver in football. He's unbelievable. Seeing him live, I've never seen a guy with his speed do everything else as well as he does it. Usually, if you're a speed guy, you're not a great route runner, or you don't track the football down the field. He does everything. He had the one drop. He's a human being. He's always open. Nobody can deal with him. But even him, if you can't block people, you can't get him the football. So
his touchdown too. I know Sidney Brown was.
Oh, that was unbelievable, though.
And
that was unbelievable.
Well, that's the thing. Like all those guys said after the game, like they were wowed because they did run it right. Sid got a good jump. It didn't matter. He scored.
Yeah.
Well,
here's why I love that. Seth on the God love Seth on the pregame show told me, you got to press Tyreek Hill. And I said, Seth, are you insane?
They can't do that.
If you miss, and the Eagles tried to press him. They tried to press him because it was at the 27. So they said, well, we don't have to worry about the space, so we can press him. Bradbury missed, and it was over. I mean, it was over. And it was unbelievable to watch live. He's in a league full of fast guys. He's just is faster than everybody else. It's amazing to watch.
I did not go back and check film on Bradbury with either the Panthers or the Giants. I haven't gone back and checked film on Slay when he was Lions. Here's what I know. Neither one of those guys are good at pressing anybody. When they've been asked to do it, very infrequently here in Philadelphia, but when asked to do it, they're not good at it. If Seth were here, I'd tell him right now, good concept. How does it play in reality? I don't think either one of those guys are good at that aspect of the game. Some corners, his ex-teammate, Eric Allen, used to be great at it. Eric Allen could get up and get in anybody's face at any time and hand watch him.
Different era too, Jody. I agree with you. It's just a different era.
Well, Jalen Ramsey is his teammate. He's probably the best, and he's not healthy right now, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But anybody, that's my whole point with Tyreek. Typically, when you got a speed guy, that's what you do. You press and you get them off there because they're not good route runners. But he's a great route runner. He runs routes like he's freaking Stephon Diggs. So good luck. Good luck. And if you miss, he's gone. You're done. You're cooked. And the safety's not getting over. And Tua is incredibly accurate when he's got time. He might be the most accurate quarterback in football, by the way.
How about that third down throw he made last night, John? That was only, I think only him can make that throw.
Yeah.
The third and like
I'm trying to think. Cousins can really stick it in there when he's got time. But I think Tua is the most accurate quarterback in football. I think maybe Jared Goff. Not a bad day to bring up Jared Goff after that game yesterday, but he's really accurate when he has time.
I'll take Mahomes.
Boy, by the way, Lamar looked like an MVP.
I'm just talking pure accuracy. There's Tua is way more accurate than Patrick Mahomes. Way more accurate. I'm just talking
strength isn't his
pure accuracy. You know,
how many bad balls a game does Mahomes throw?
Mahomes is great, but I'm just talking pure accuracy. It's like a pitcher that throws only strikes. Doesn't mean he's the best pitcher, but that guy is always, the ball goes where it's supposed to be when he has time.
I'm not arguing that he's the most accurate, but I might put Mahomes second. I think because he does so many other things differently and throws from different angles and he takes your eye away from it, I think it takes your eye off the fact that he's always delivering the ball.
I'm not
pretty
saying
damn close to
he's certainly not terrible, but I don't think he's top 5 in accuracy.
Really?
You top 5.
You think Kirk Cousins is more accurate than Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah. Kirk Cousins is, yeah. I mean, just pure accuracy. I mean, he makes some throws that you're like, what the freak? Same with Goff. But they're not even close to him in other areas. I'm just talking pure strike pitcher, pure Greg Maddux, always on the black. That's Tua. That's Cousins. That's Goff. Who else, Jeff? Am I missing somebody?
You mentioned the 3 I'd probably go with. I'm just going down the list now. I mean, I would agree with Jody. I think Mahomes is not in that tier, but he's up there. Man, I'm just NFC East. No, Dak's not that accurate. Goff would have been my guy. I'm trying to think in the AFC.
Yeah, he might be. You can argue Goff.
I'll tell you what. Yesterday, Lamar looked like those guys on the accuracy scale. He was.
Was that more pro Ravens or come back down to earth Lions for you? I know you do your overreaction Monday.
I'm a
Lions
pro.
last week. Eagles lose, 49ers lose. Hey, Lions are as good as anybody in the NFC. 5-1. Check the standings. Oops, they go in and get their tail kicked in
think
Denver.
that's pro Ravens. I think the Ravens bit Dan Campbell's kneecap. If you want to be honest, I've been waiting for something like that from that football team all year. And whatever.
Boy, the Ravens, by the way, the Ravens are really good when they play their A
really
game.
good.
When they play their A game.
They were up 35-0 at one point in that football game. In the fourth quarter, their defense is good, and when Lamar plays like that, they are going to be scary. It's everybody likes to talk about Cleveland's defense and Cincinnati potentially coming back, but man, that ball was good.
And I said this on CBS Sports Radio last night. Worth mentioning and repeating. How many teams in the National Football League made offers to Lamar Jackson when he hit free agency?
0.
None. Not one. I think he's pretty damn good. And there's a couple of teams, Atlanta Falcons come to mind, who could be significantly better if they'd given up 2 first-round draft picks to get Lamar Jackson. And there wasn't one team that made him an offer.
I'll tell you what, Jody, they wasted one of their first-round picks anyway because they don't give him the ball. And then they say he has a headache. Oh, this drove me nuts yesterday. Oh, Bijan has a headache. That's why we kind of limited. Then why did you put him in a tie game late? Explain that to me. Oh, so he doesn't have a headache?
You're not suggesting they've already soured on Bijan, are you?
No, it's just
there was something wrong with that.
Yeah,
he was lame.
There was something wrong.
The explanation after the fact, well, he just wasn't himself. Come on, you got to give us a little something more than that, Coach. Shame on Arthur Smith.
When coaches do that,
that drives me nuts. I agree.
They're doing a disservice to their players when there's something wrong and they don't let people in on it. Because I remember Darren Sproles here when he tore his hamstring, and the Eagles called it a hamstring, and everybody's like, he's not back in 2 weeks, he's not back in 4 weeks, he's not back in 6 weeks, and everybody's criticizing Darren Sproles, which is goofy because the guy's pound for pound the strongest guy on the team, and he was working to get back, and it turns out he finally gets back after like 10-11 weeks, and he tells us, oh yeah, it was torn.
He never got torn before that.
It's and the Eagles did a disservice by not admitting the truth, because people were a lot of fans were questioning, why can't he get on the field? I mean,
I honestly think sometimes, as much as we can get frustrated with Jalen's answers, sometimes he does do a good job at explaining, like last night. Do you think the knee brace is going to bother you? Well, hope not. And he says he'll be fine. They're very concise answers, but then you got Nick. Well, yeah, but then you got Nick. Well, Elliott's going to ask this question on Monday, and John's going to ask this on Wednesday. He's given the weekly itinerary to Rob Motti last night.
That was
that was the coach feeling his oats after getting a big win. Jeff Kerr, we always appreciate it when you jump aboard. Thank you for doing so. We will talk to you again next week. You got to be in front of the
Phillies. He's ready to go.
Are you heading to South Philly or in front of the TV at 5 o'clock?
I sold my tickets for $1,400.
$1,400. Yeah.
Holy man!
I've seen them win a World Series. I've seen them win a national pennant.
Are you going to Washington, Jeff Kerr, for the?
I will be going. I will be going to Washington.
All right, you're taking me out to dinner then with $1,400, and you're.
Of course. As long as you guys carpool me down to Washington, I'll take you to dinner.
All right, sorry, I put you in a position you got to fix it. Jeff Kerr. JK, thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That's our guy, Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com. All right, McDonald and McMullen coming back. Mac and Mac with a bow on the show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac. Birds 365 going to put a after victory Sunday night in the Monday morning show to bed. You got Nick Sirianni with his day after gathering today. We assume he's going to do the okey doke on a Jalen Hurts.
I don't know who's asking the question because they know they ain't getting an answer, but somebody will probably go down.
Don't you have to do it just for? I understand these questions are primetime real estate. You don't want to give it up. You want to get an answer, but somebody's got to ask the question, don't they?
I think
who is most likely to do that? Who is the guy who will take one for the team?
Chris might do it. Nah, Chris, Martin might do it. Martin likes to get those injury things on the record. I'm not doing it.
So
I'll tell you that.
You can't, because the coach identified you as the guy who should do it. And he expects to do it, so you can't do it. You get a free pass. Everybody else, you got to at least think about it. Do I need to be the guy to ask him about Jalen's knee, knowing full well he's not going to answer the question? I get it. You don't want to get a non-answer if you're asking a question. All right, Commanders coming up on Friday. They stink, John.
They do stink.
Don't we need to hold the Eagles? We'd use that word a lot.
That was a bad game. Yeah, that was a bad game that they
watched a lot of that on Sunday because it was the game that was on locally here on CBS.
But I mean the Eagles against the Commanders here. That's a bad. They shouldn't have had trouble with that team.
If it was only a couple weeks ago, so it's still pretty fresh in our memory. If Ron Rivera had some nerve,
they could have lost. They could have stole that game. Yeah, that was a bad decision by Ron. I have a tough time defending Ron much more because you got to try to steal that game, and that would have been a disaster if the Eagles lost that.
Losing to Washington 2 years in a row at home.
Yeah,
that would not have played well. But because they did hold on and win that game and take it in overtime, it just gives them a little extra motivation. Hey, we can't screw around this way. We need to not only get them down, we need to step on their necks because the Commanders are not a great football team. They sometimes give the Eagles a hard time, and as you correctly pointed out, more so it sits at the link than down in the dump that is D.C.
Oh, and that is a dump. Oh, that is a dump. Josh Harris, get that new stadium built too sweet, as they say. That place is, it should be condemned.
Eagles need to go down and take a dump on the Commanders this week. That's basically what it comes down to.
Remember when the railing almost killed Jalen Hurts a couple of years ago?
Then you wouldn't have to ask about why his knee hurt because you knew it was the stadium almost fell on top of him. Johnny Mac, tell Nick we said hi when you see him today. You and me back here in the morning.
Let's do it. Hopefully I'll have some sleep. Maybe I can not sleepwalk through the whole thing.
Can't fall asleep. Phillies are playing 5 o'clock. You got to get to South Philly, talk to Sirianni, and then get back to watch the Phillies. We will be talking Eagles here, though, tomorrow. Probably a Phillies mention or two, depending on how the game goes. Birds 365 right back in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking. talking about it, debate inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.